day of protest in France. Tens of thousands march across the nation, demanding the government do more to combat climate change. Organizers say it's time for real action. The death toll rises at the same time. Yellow Vest demonstrators enter their fourth month with another violent weekend. In Paris, high-end shops and restaurants were ransacked and torched. And the death toll rises in New Zealand's recent terror attack on 2 mosques. Our correspondent brings us the latest. Hello and welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. I'm Charlie James. First, the students marched against climate inaction. Then Saturday, it was the adults' turn. Nationwide, some 200 climate events brought tens of thousands of people out to demand the government do more. Owen Burnell tells us more about their mission.
A day to stand up and be counted on climate change. With the weather good, Paris was full. Demonstrators in their thousands gathered in the centre of the capital. Their message clear: France's government must do more for the climate, as there will be no Planet B.
We have to keep multinational companies in check, since they persist in fossil fuels and pesticides. I have nephews and nieces, and I want to say that I tried to do something, even if we fail.
I'm here because the government is not moving, and I want to protest for the planet. I want to show them that we're here.
Organisers of the march estimated that over 100,000 people took part. Police put the figure at 36,000. It wasn't just Paris. In more than 220 towns and cities, the French were out in the streets. From Lille to Lyon, thousands called for more concrete measures on climate change, often hand in hand with France's other main protest movement, the Yellow Vests.
It's important to make the link between social justice and climate justice. You can't separate the two.
Over 140 associations, including Greenpeace France, helped with Saturday's march. For organisers, who say over 350,000 took part across France, it was not just a grand day out, but also a great success.
The climate march coincided with the 18th straight weekend of Yellow Vest protests. This time in Paris, demonstrators targeted upscale restaurants and boutiques on the Champs-Élysées, setting several of them on fire. They say the locations are offensive symbols of the French elite's decadence. Alexander Alcott shows us the damage.
The Arc de Triomphe once again becoming the backdrop of Yellow Vest riots. The police used tear gas and water cannon to try to disperse the crowd, but it's clear that many of the protesters turned up to fight. The 18th straight Saturday of protests comes at the end of 2 months of national debates called by President Macron, which many demonstrators have dismissed as nothing but a smokescreen.
The people are exhausted and extremely angry. Violence is the only thing that works.
The high-end shops around the Champs-Élysées were also targeted by opportunistic looters. A newsstand was burnt to cinders, and even one of the area's best-known restaurants, Le Fouquet's, was not spared severe damage. Shortly before 2 p.m. local time, rioters also set fire to this bank, and it quickly spread up to the flats above. The residents were quickly evacuated, but 11 sustained injuries, including a mother and her baby. The Interior Minister Christophe Castaner has condemned the violence as the work of professional troublemakers who've infiltrated the Yellow Vest marches. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron has had to cut short his weekend on the ski slopes to return to Paris for crisis talks.
And French President Emmanuel Macron is now at the Interior Ministry. He is there to meet with Prime Minister Edouard Philippe about Saturday's violent Yellow Vest riots. Authorities in New Zealand have confirmed the death of another victim in Friday's mass shooting there. That brings the number killed to 50, with another 50 injured in the attack on 2 mosques. The additional victim was discovered as bodies were being removed from the buildings in the city of Christchurch. The country is still coming to grips with its worst ever mass shooting, and mosques across New Zealand have become centers of mourning, with memorials growing in a show of solidarity against Islamophobia. For the latest from Christchurch, we cross now to France 24's Rochelle Harrison-Pless. Rochelle, we now have an update on the death toll. What other developments can you tell us about?
That's right. The New Zealand Police Commissioner Mike Bush has confirmed that the death toll from those shootings on Friday has now risen to 50. He said that all bodies were cleared from the scenes, and that's how authorities discovered one more victim last night here in Christchurch. He also confirmed that the Australian alleged gunman, who's currently in custody until the 5th of April, was the sole gunman involved in those shootings. Meanwhile, police say a man and a woman who were being held in connection to those attacks have now been released as police are satisfied that they have no links to the alleged gunman. Now, with the death toll standing at 50, the number of injured victims is also at 50. 36 people remain in hospital, and 2 of those are in a critical condition. Now, the New Zealand Herald is reporting that police advice to stay away from mosques has now been lifted. That said, security remains high here in Christchurch, with a visible police presence on the streets of the city.
Rochelle Harrison-Pless in Christchurch, thank you so much for that update. As the Brexit deadline looms, a 14-day protest march set off on Saturday. This group wants to leave the EU with or without a deal, and they are showing their dedication with a 270-mile trek from Sunderland to London. Brexit leader Nigel Farage kicked off the march. Ivana Scatola tells us more.
We're going to London to stop the Brexit betrayal.
It's a symbolic location for the start of a Leave Means Leave march. Sunderland was the first place in Britain to declare a vote to leave the EU in the referendum of June 2016. In the cold and rain, some 100 to 200 hardcore Brexiteers set off from here on Saturday on a 2-week march of over 400 kilometres to London, accusing politicians of betraying the will of the people. Leading the pack, former head of the UK Independence Party Nigel Farage, one of the leaders of the campaign to leave the EU.
They think they can walk all over us. Well, we're going to march back to them and tell them whatever tricks they play, if they extend it, if they don't deliver it, if we even have to fight this again, we will beat them again.
Prime Minister Theresa May's withdrawal agreement was this week rejected in Parliament for the 2nd time. And on Thursday, MPs voted to request an extension from the EU. These Brexiteers, though, don't see any problem with leaving the bloc without a deal.
The people voted that in a referendum, and that will should be honoured. It shouldn't be extended, it should be honoured.
It's not difficult. Leaving is quite straightforward. We'll leave and we will be better for it.
There was confrontation when a small band of pro-Remain protesters caught up with the group and insults were traded.
Shove your Brexit up for us.
The Leave march goes through pro-Brexit heartlands before arriving in London on the 29th of March, the day the UK was supposed to leave the EU, and now highly unlikely. The long stretch won't be covered all on foot, though, with some parts covered by car.
That's all for this edition, but for even more news and information, you can always go to our website. That's France24.com. There you can read more about our top story on the website right now, the Paris climate rally from Saturday. Do stay with us here on France 24.